Tonight, leaked deep state government files outline a chilling blueprint for 2025. A plan to stage public spectacles of violence, designed to terrorize the nation into submission. The documents call for maximum shock value and public trauma. Executions on live television, so bloody, so devastating, that nobody watching can ever forget. And the targets? They all have one thing in common. They are conservative influencers who have more influence than positions, who refuse to bend, refuse to be bought by Israel, and refuse to echo the globalist uniparty line. This isn't rumour, this isn't speculation. We've got the documents, we've got the trail. Coming up, exclusive interviews, forensic documents analysis, and the receipts. Raw source material that you can judge for yourself. Before we begin, I just want to quickly talk about how you can stay one step ahead of the deep state with our partner VP.net. VP.net is not just another VPN, it's the next evolution in private browsing, built with unbreakable zero-logging architecture. That means no records, no traces, literally nothing for governments, deep state operatives, or foreign bad actors to seize. Benjamin Netanyahu has just made history, not for diplomacy, not for war, but for something darker. He's the first world leader in history to stand before the world and deny ordering the assassination of a prominent American figure on US soil.
That somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk.
That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing is, it's not only insane, I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying this. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this. When you hate Jews, when you hate the Jewish state, you're willing to say anything. And by the way, they're willing to kill us all the time. I mean, that's what they're doing. And you know, over the centuries, when Jews, especially in the Middle Ages, the horrific Middle Ages, the worst things were said about Jews you couldn't possibly believe. We were poisoning the wells. We were drinking the blood of Christian children. You name it. I mean, these things, that continued actually up to the Holocaust.
After Charlie Kirk was killed, we know that Netanyahu wouldn't stop posting about him. Like minutes after he was killed, when his body was still warm, Netanyahu was posting about him, interrupting his seven-front war in the Middle East and his global assassination spree, where he's trying to kill people even inside a U.S. ally in Qatar.
Netanyahu says the FBI has already found the assassin, but investigators have already blown wide open major inconsistencies in the official narrative. They tell us the shooter, a man whose own family say was a liberal who couldn't handle a gun to save his life, somehow landed a surgical shot from 200 meters. A shot experts say only an elite marksman could make. Then, miraculously, he's meant to have torn his weapon apart in seconds, despite weapons specialists saying that particular rifle can't be stripped and reassembled that fast. Reassembled it while on the run, and stashed it in the woods. All the while, bullets with politically convenient messages supposedly tie it neatly to a motive. Even worse for the official narrative, the footage tells a different story. The suspect is on the rooftop, the shots ring out, and seconds later he's running, without the weapon and no obvious way he could have done what the official line demands. Now weapons experts are blowing the whistle. The official narrative stinks. It's impossible. Too many things don't add up. The shot didn't come from the rooftop. Ballistics experts tried to explain it away. They said that the bullet ricocheted from his chest to his carotid artery because of a concave body armor design.
So when we see an entrance wound from a firearm, especially on the skin and something in an area that's soft tissue like the neck, we normally don't see such a large hole there with the entrance wound. We just don't. When skin is pierced, whether it's a projectile or anything else, you know, that stuff stretches out of the way, then it closes back in on itself. I've talked about this many times with 5.56 and even 9mm wounds, and I have seen 30 cal wounds and even larger wounds. A lot of times with these smaller caliber wounds, even up to 30 cal, it's hard to see a entrance wound at all, especially with 5.56, 9mm. A lot of times you got to stretch the skin. There's techniques that we use when we're assessing casualties where we stretch the skin apart and we're looking for those less than obvious wound channels with an entrance wound. Here we see a fairly massive wound. What is very clear to me is that we had a round that impacted the upper edge of his body armor, and then that round deflected directly upward. So now what we're dealing with is not only a deformed projectile, but it's also now moving upward, which would make the wound larger, both because of its deformation and now its angle of entry, and it's also probably fragmented as well.
Which might have made sense except for one problem. He wasn't wearing body armor. The line on his shirt was a microphone.
I'll show you some of the pictures that I have that I just received, and this is supposedly moments before, and it is very clear that he does not have body armor on. Let me get rid of that comment. So this is what we have, and typically body armor isn't coming with nipples, but we can see that we obviously have some sort of mic up here or something that is, I would say that that's a mic. That was my first indication. What I don't understand is there does seem to be like a continuous line going across there. And here's the problem that I have with some of that is the fact that that makes that entire footage a lot weirder.
If it feels like unseen forces are steering public events, pulling strings behind the scenes, and watching with amusement as society splinters, you're not imagining it. More people are waking up and asking the same question. Who benefits?
It feels like some people in the world, like some dark and powerful people, know what's going on and they're not telling the rest of us. I think that feels like what's happening sometimes. And I don't know if I'm the only person that's feeling that. I feel like they all know something that's happening. It always feels like there's something bigger and eviler in the distance hiding behind something that's kind of laughing a little. And, and this just felt like the pinnacle of the horn of whatever creature that is.
Charlie Kirk was fearing for his life and terrified of pro-Israeli forces before his death. Max Blumenthal blows the whistle about what was happening in the final months of Charlie's life.
The real issue was, as we learned from a longtime friend of Charlie Kirk, who had spoken to him, I would say, a week or two before he was killed about this, he was afraid of Netanyahu, and he was afraid of these billionaire cutouts of Netanyahu, who had many of whom had funded his organization.
In the history of a political assassination, that the leader of a foreign government has come out to deny that they were behind it. I mean,
never seen anything like that.
Right. I mean, yeah.
I mean, it was, so Netanyahu has to ultimately deny that Israel was involved in an interview on Newsmax with Greta Van Susteren. Newsmax is another institution that Israel controls. Its CEO, Chris Ruddy, was just in Israel with Netanyahu, basically shining his shoes in public. So Netanyahu goes there and says, this is like, to accuse us of killing Charlie Kirk or having a role in this is like a medieval blood libel and the Holocaust. And when Netanyahu says that, it probably leads some Gentiles to wonder if there was something to those blood libels. I mean, when someone that sleazy and that blood-soaked links innocent Jews to the murderous campaign that Israel's carrying out, it's bad. It's actually bad for the Jews when he says that. But I've never seen anything like this. And I've never seen anything like what Netanyahu was doing relating to a tragedy or a crime in the United States since 9/11. Netanyahu blamed Muslims for Charlie Kirk's killing explicitly on Fox News. He was trying to milk it as much as he could, but it blew back on him because he's become a prime suspect. But after 9/11, Netanyahu said in comments widely reported in Israeli media, you can look this up, he said 9/11 was good for Israel. And it's the same way that he saw Charlie Kirk's killing as being good for Israel.
Whenever there's an assassination or mass casualty event, whenever the official narrative stinks, ask yourself, who benefits? After the break, official government documents that expose the evil plot to assassinate prominent conservative dissenters on live TV, with maximum gore and maximum public trauma, all in the service of the globalist agenda. Today's sponsor is pillsforever.com. If you think Big Pharma have your best interests at heart, think again. The price of medicine in America has skyrocketed, and there are certain medicines Big Pharma don't want you to know about. That's why I've partnered with pillsforever.com. All of their FDA-approved medicines are the cheapest you'll find anywhere. More importantly, you can order medicines that Big Pharma don't want you to have, such as ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and fenbendazole. Speaking of fenbendazole, not only does it get rid of parasites that live inside your body, there have been studies that show fenbendazole can help with cancer. Listen to this bombshell interview with Mel Gibson, who says 3 of his friends who had terminal cancer were cured by the very same ivermectin and fenbendazole available at pillsforever.com.
I have 3 friends. All 3 of them had stage 4 cancer. All 3 of them don't have cancer right now at all. And they had some serious stuff going on.
And what did they take?
Jesus. They took some, what you've heard they've taken.
Ivermectin?
Fenbendazole.
Fenbendazole, yeah. I'm hearing that a lot.
They drank hydrochloride something or other.
Get 15% off using coupon code People's Voice at the checkout. Please click the link below this video to take advantage of this fantastic offer. The full globalist machine is involved in the chaos, urging Americans towards civil war that the elites have been plotting for decades. Think this is an exaggeration? Watch globalist propaganda outlet MSNBC tell viewers it's time to pick up a weapon and join the war.
But this is a war. This isn't a battle. And we absolutely will win this war.
It is a war. It is indeed a war. And I have to say, they have won some battles, Jasmine, but we have to keep our eye on the war, and everybody needs to pick up a weapon and get involved, because this is for the safety and lasting of the country.
If the idea of mass bloodshed and a series of public executions sounds extreme, you need to be aware what deep state government files reveal in black and white. Leaked official NASA and CIA documents reveal decades of high-level globalist preparations for a series of assassinations and false flags starting in the year 2025. If that isn't disturbing enough, a document published just before 9/11 reveals a plan to spread chaos in America by assassinating dissenting influencers on live TV for maximum public trauma. Charlie Kirk was the first in a planned series of executions.
It says on the website, Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare circa 2025. And as I decided to just flip through it quickly to see what it was about, I was a little stunned. What it said, which was quite shocking, on page 93, it said, "Capture, torture Americans in living color on prime time, and conduct serious psy-war and collateral damage and exploitation." On the same page 93, they say exploit CNN syndrome. Now, CNN, of course, is the network, the news media network.
Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and other prominent conservatives who are refusing to bend the knee to globalist forces are risking their lives, according to those who understand the pressure that Charlie Kirk was facing in the final months of his life. The globalists delivered a message to him and America. They will not tolerate dissent.
Charlie Kirk began coming under pressure from his own base. I would say, I actually forgot which year it was, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was called the Groyper Wars. And Charlie Kirk would do these TPUSA tours around the country, and young men would file in, and they would, you get to question Charlie Kirk and debate him. And they hit him from an angle he never expected. They were from this organization called the Groypers, which sort of follows Nick Fuentes. They're anti-Israel. They're kind of anti-Jewish. Some people call them white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. They're very anti-Israel, and they believe they're the true voice of America first, because the U.S. government has fallen under the control of this malign foreign power in Israel. And so they would confront Charlie Kirk with a history of, for example, the USS Liberty, the U.S. naval ship that was deliberately struck by the Israeli military in the 1967 war in order to cripple that boat because it was a surveillance boat. It was listening to Israeli communications. And they killed scores of sailors. And they would confront Charlie Kirk with the difference between Israeli interests and American interests while holding up a cross. And Charlie Kirk would just shut down the conversation because he knew that if he would give an inch to them, it would threaten the relationship with his donors, and TPUSA would collapse. Now, after October 7th, the pressure was just too extreme. The whole grassroots of the conservative movement, everyone under 35, started to question the U.S.-Israel relationship because they wanted to be America first. And they saw Netanyahu just leading Trump around by the balls. They saw Miriam Adelson, this Israeli intelligence asset billionaire, just calling shots inside the White House. And a lot of them are pro-life and were horrified by the slaughter of babies that they saw in Gaza. So the bottom dropped out of right-wing youth support for Israel to the point where now only about 25% of Republicans under 35 support Israel over Palestine. So Charlie Kirk has to answer to his own grassroots base. And you can hear he's starting to make some noises. He's talking about October 7th possibly being an inside job. Israel let it happen in order to carry out long-term political goals. He starts to question whether Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli Mossad agent at a time when the Epstein files were becoming an uncomfortable issue for Trump. And it all blew out into the open at TPUSA's July Youth Summit in, I believe it was Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Might have been Tallahassee.
Yeah, Tucker gave the speech.
Right.
Right.
So Tucker gave a speech. I mean, that was the seminal moment, but it wasn't just Tucker. Megyn Kelly had started questioning Israel, and she's on stage calling Jeffrey Epstein a Mossad agent with Charlie. Comic Dave Smith, who, like myself, is a Jewish anti-Zionist, but he more comes from kind of the libertarian world. So he was welcomed on stage to debate a Zionist propagandist who works for Newsweek, Joshua Hammer. Debate, no, that's not something you want, especially at this point, if you are like a pro-Israel enforcer. And Dave Smith was openly talking about the slaughter of children in Gaza, and the crowd was cheering in this cathartic way. Then Tucker comes out, says, you should have your citizenship yanked if you fight for a foreign army. All right. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands of American Jewish youth go to Israel and fight for their army instead of our own. So that's a direct blow to not just the Israel lobby, but like the whole concept of Jewish communal life as it's understood by its leadership. Then Tucker calls out Bill Ackman, who's one of the biggest Netanyahu money men inside the US, who's pulling strings at Harvard, getting their funding pulled unless they crack down on Palestine activism. And he questions Bill Ackman. He calls him a scam artist and said, how did he make $9 billion? Like, where did it come from? I mean, and Bill Ackman, the next day, he couldn't really answer the question. He published like a 5,000 word meltdown Twitter post trying to defend his financial investments. It was just bonkers. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was all Charlie Kirk's fault for giving basically the people what they wanted. And after that, he started getting publicly attacked. Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, the two biggest Zionist enforcers in the media, who are very close to Netanyahu, biggest forces lobbying Trump to wage war on Iran, went off on TPUSA, said we can't be having a Big Ten if it includes kooks. Laura Loomer, we all know who she is. She publicly attacked Charlie Kirk and said he basically had to step down. He was getting attacked in pro-Israel media. What we didn't know, which I learned, is in private, the pressure was even more intense. He was being bombarded with text messages. And at some point, Netanyahu personally called him and offered to basically fund his organization to new levels that he never even imagined, which meant, Zionist Israeli takeover, complete like recapture of TPUSA, an organization they basically helped create. And Charlie Kirk turned him down.
Unfortunately for the elite, their plans to dominate the world through violence, chaos, and endless wars won't succeed. The world is waking up. The younger generations, exemplified by Charlie Kirk's movement, have shown that they will not be intimidated. Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, has already declared his movement won't die. She's continuing his campus tour across America. The anti-globalist movement will only grow from here. In the meantime, we all have the responsibility to ensure globalist forces relying on false flags and bloodshed are exposed. Here at The People's Voice, we're determined to continue exposing the crimes of the global elite, but we need your help. Subscribe to the channel, tell your friends and family about us, and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive and uncensored content. We can't do without you.